Very good afternoon to everyone. Today I'll be analyzing the revenue dated 25 of September. So, the first article that is there in your the Hindu is multiple entry exit option in higher studies may not suit India, and this is what House panel has reported. So, what has House panel said about it? Let's talk about it. Now, before I start this, you must know about the national education policy because under this national education policy, you have multiple entry and exit options. After several organizations of students and teachers raised objections to the option of multiple entry and exit option. In the National Education Policy, the Parliament Standing Committee on Education has advised the centre to hold discussions with all stakeholders. Now, the panel in a report titled Implementation of the National Education Policy 2020 in Higher Education said Indian institutions were likely to face several issues in implementing this system. The report was tabled in both the House of Parliament during the recently concluded special session. The National Education Policy proposes multi-entry and multi-exit option for the students in higher education. So, the National Education Policy has talked about multi-entry and multi-exit options where in your higher education. The panel said while the multiple entry, multiple exit looked like a flexible system which was being operated by the Western educational institution in Turkey, it might not work well in the country where in India. And what are the reasons the panel has highlighted? Because if there is something that is not, or if they feel that the system is not going to work effectively, they must be having backing of certain facts and data. So what they have said is that India is having a very high population. So intake in higher education every year was very high. So they say that India is diversely populated or densely populated country. So it is very difficult. Uh, so what we are having is we are having multiple options. Just a minute. Multiple options in the research field. So, and now, if institutions allow multiple entry, multiple exit, it would be very difficult for the institutions to predict how many students would exit and how many would join midway. Since institutions would not know in the in and out traffic, it will certainly disturb the pupil teachers ratio. So they are talking about pupil teacher ratio. The member also expressed concern the uneven geographical distribution of higher educational institutions, creating hurdles in managing multiple entry, multiple exit in several areas, mostly the countryside. The institutions have not thought very clearly about this problem and how they will resolve when it is at the doorstep. So now, what has panel said? The panel, however, noted that this option would offer students greater flexibility and choice in their educational pathways, comprehensive guidelines and a well-defined framework, including special eligibility criteria, credit transfer mechanism, providing a clear roadmap for students pursuing multiple exit points. Now, there is also an implementation of standardized credit accumulation and transfer system that allows students to earn and transfer credits seamlessly across institutions would facilitate smooth transitions between different level of education. Now, see what they are saying is that in the national education policy, they will have a leverage. And what is that leverage? The leverage is about that if a pupil is entering, say, subject option of their own choice, now the pupil will have a liberty, and liberty regarding what they can exit at any phase of time whenever they want, and at the same time they can enter any institute or any subject of their choice. So the House panel says that India is very densely populated, and every year we have a very high intake. And when we have high intake, what is happening is that it becomes very difficult to have a check or to maintain that ratio of students entering for that subject, or for that matter, single subject, like whichever subject they opt for. The panel recommends that the Union Education Ministry have wider consultations with various universities, institutions, their regulatory bodies, and other stakeholders to devise ways in the views of difficulties being faced in implementing the multiple entry and multiple exit options, and apprise the panel of it. The Kerala government has decided not to implement multiple or multi-entry, multi-exit in colleges and universities of the state. Now, the this scheme seems to be very dicey. So Kerala has opted out from implementing this scheme. So what is required is a discussion which would hold relevant to this option, how this option would work in India. Okay. Now, this was for your multiple entry, multiple exit option. Now, what you need to do is that you need to, just go and revise the national education policy. What national education policy I'll be talking about. Once you are able to know that where this multiple entry and exit option is going to happen, which subjects are there, how they are even thinking about it, you'll find that there is no detailed analysis about it. They have just talked about implementing this option, but how this option will be implemented, how the degrees will be provided to the students, it is again a difficult task. Now let's move on to the next news. This says that team from Telangana visits Buddhist caves in Sri Lanka. A Buddhism team from Telangana visited the 3rd century BC Buddhist rock cut caves at Uttar onto the Colombo Candy route in Sri Lanka on Sunday. Now, what is this Buddhavanam project? Buddhavanam project. The Buddhavanam is a massive Buddhist heritage theme park that is developed by the Telangana government at Nagar Arjun Sagar. Now, where is this project? Nagar Arjun Sagar. Now, Mr. Ajmera said that the Buddha's teaching called Tripitaka. You should know about the Tripitaka. What Tripitaka says? This is Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka, which were transmitted orally until that time, were written on palm leaves under the auspices of Sri Lanka King Devanam Priyatissa, a contemporary of King Ashoka. So, if you have done ancient history, you will be knowing about it. He said it was only after Buddhist literature came into being in India. Also said that the Acharya Buddha Ghosha, the famous Theravada Buddhist philosopher, lived in these caves for some time and wrote Vishuddhimagga. Now you should know about Vishuddhimagga. He also appreciated the Mathale Buddha Vihar for running a school in the name of Acharya Buddha Ghosha even today as a token of respect to his scholars. Now, Buddhist expert consultant of Buddha Vanam project and the archaeologist said that the rock cut caves, the monastery, the antiquities recovered from the surrounding area showed the Buddhist connection between the two Telugu states. Later, Mr. This on Venerable Gangalika Mahadev, the deputy chief monk of Mahavihara at Anubhavarpura, and extended an invitation to him to visit Buddhavanam, a unique and the largest Buddhist heritage theme park in Southeast Asia. So, if you see, this news becomes important from your culture aspects. Now, let's move on to the next news analysis. First, I'll do the small ones. Okay. In this page, you see what they are saying is Defense Board discusses plan for second Vikrant-like carrier. The Defense Procurement Board last week discussed the Navy's proposal for acquiring a second Vikrant-like aircraft carrier, according to defense sources. However, Defense Procurement Board is yet to clear the proposal. Only after that will the proposal be put on. Now, what are they talking about? This project estimate to cost around 40,000 crore will see some modification and upgrades to the design of the country's first indigenous aircraft IAC. Indigenous aircraft, that is your INS Vikrant. Now, INS Vikrant and will also be manufactured by Cochin Shipyard Limited. The 262-meter long, 62-meter wide INS Vikrant, displacing 44,800 tons, is powered by 4 General Electric LM2500 engines, which give it a maximum speed of 28 knots and an endurance of 7,500 nautical miles. So you should know about the specifications of INS Vikrant. The ship uses an aircraft operation mode known as short takeoff but arrested recovery, that is STOPper, for which it is equipped with a sky jump for launching aircraft and a set of 3 arrested wires for their recovery on board. In addition, the Navy also operates the 4,500-ton carrier INS Vikramaditya. INS Vikramaditya is there. The stopper mechanism, that is your short takeoff but arrested recovery mechanism, procured from Russia under a $2.3 billion deal and inducted in November 2013. Now, speaking on the side lines of the Aero India Air Show in the Bangalore in February 21, I said that the Navy was finalizing plans for a repeat order of a Vikrant-sized carrier, indigenous aircraft carrier 2, that is IAC2, with some modification. Given the long timelines, it may be inducted close to the time INS Vikramaditya leaves service, effectively becoming its replacement. So the Navy, which has for long based is more structured, centered on Three carriers had envisaged in IAC-2, that is Indigenous Aircraft Carrier 2, with a displacement of 65,000 tons and a catapult assisted takeoff, but arrested recovery, that is catover system was system for launching aircraft as well as full electric propulsion. Now, higher cost, however, a much bigger carrier with newer technologies would mean much higher cost and build time, due to which the Navy has settled for a repeat of Vikrant-sized carrier. The keel of the Vikrant was laid in 2009. With the experience gained from that, CSL officials have stated that a repeat order can be included in 7 to 8 years. Now, here what you need to know is that the specifications of the second Vikrant-like carrier, and what is Defense Acquisition Council talking about. Right. Let's move on to the next analysis. Okay, so the next news says that NASA's first asteroid samples land on Earth after release from spacecraft. Now, NASA's first asteroid samples fetched from deep space parachuted into the on Sunday to cap a 7 year journey. Now, in a flyby of Earth, the Osiris Rex spacecraft released the sample capsule from 1 lakh kilometers out. The small capsule landed 4 hours later on a remote stretch of military land as the mothership set off after another asteroid. Now, what are they talking about? Now, we have touchdown flight control announced. Now, scientists estimate the capsule hold at least a cup of rubble from the carbon-rich asteroid known as Bennu. So, here you should know about Bennu. But won't know for sure until the container is opened. Some spilled and floated away when the spacecraft scooped up too much and rocks jammed. The containers lit during collection 3 years ago. Japan, the only country to bring back asteroid samples, gathered about a teaspoon in a pair of asteroid mission. So, another thing that you should know about is Japan, the only other country to bring back asteroid sample that gathered a teaspoon in a pair of asteroid motion. The pebbles and the dust delivered on Sunday represent the biggest haul from beyond the moon. Preserved building blocks from the dawn of our solar system 4.5 billion years ago. The sample will help scientists better understand how Earth and life form. So, here the important thing that you need to know is about Bennu. How Japan is the only country to bring back the asteroid sample. That you need to remember from here. Now, let's move on to. Okay, if you see, refugees leave as Azerbaijan takes control at Karabakh. Now, here what you need to know is that this place becomes important with respect to your film section. So, geographically, what you need to know is that the boundaries that are shared with Azerbaijan, etc., and how they were able to take the control of how the Karabakh region got onto or got under Azerbaijan. So this need to be done. That's it from here. Let's move on to the next analysis. Okay. Fukushima's and wastewater controversy. Now it says that how did contamination occur? Why is water being released now? What is the process of treating nuclear wastewater? Um, so yeah, and that is your nuclear wastewater. Will such treatment remove all radioactive material from water? So the next question is, will radioactive material be removed? And why has China banned seafood from Japan? How has South Korea reacted to the decision? Now, last month, amid the strong backlash from the public and the neighboring countries, Japan began the release of contaminated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. So, what has happened? Japan's government announced plan to release over 1 million tons of contaminated water from Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea over the next 30 years. Now, the wastewater is a byproduct of catastrophic 2012 earthquake and tsunami, which disabled the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, leading to the release of radioactive materials. After more than a decade of storing this wastewater, Japan says they are running out of storage space and alleges that the now treated water is safe for release. So what is Japan saying? The Japan is saying that the waste water has now been treated, and once they are treated, they are safe to release. However, since the announcement in 2021, a sizable fraction of the public, both domestic and foreign, have been speaking out against this decision, claiming that mixing radioactive materials in the sea poses major health risks, especially since these countries rely heavily on seafood. That means they are saying that these countries rely on or rely heavily on seafood. So if you see if this water is being released in sea, what is going to happen? The seafood is very high chance to get contaminated. How is the water being treated? The water is being treated by the Tokyo Electric Power Company, that is TEPCO. You should know about TEPCO. Japan's largest electric utility firm, which is this TEPCO. Since 2011, TEPCO has been in charge of decommissioning the Fukushima Daiichi power plant and managing the waste. The water has been treated with multiple techniques, notably the advanced liquid processing system, which removes 62 types of radioactive material. However, it does not remove tritium. TEPCO and the Japanese government argue that the concentration of tritium does not exceed international standards, in particular those of IAE, that is your International Atomic Energy Agency. The United Nations nuclear watchdog, WHO, IA. This is UN's watchdog. Um, According to TEPCO's website, the radiation emitted by tritium is extremely weak and can be blocked with a single sheet of paper. So, TEPCO is saying what? That the radiations that are being emitted from tritium are weak. So, what do they mean to say this? That this could actually be countered or can be blocked from a single sheet of paper. The concentration is also 6 times less than the limit for tritium in drinking water set by the WHO organization. Now you can't remove tritium because it is identical to hydrogen. So from science and tech purpose, it becomes important that tritium is identical to your hydrogen. So removing it, chemically extracting it from wastewater becomes quite impossible. Now, what else they are saying? How has the public responded? Fears persist within the majority. That is, a poll was conducted by Japan's Fiji Press in September shows that 16% of the respondents are opposed to the discharge of the treated water. So you see, you can also use this in your case study that 16% of the people of the survey that was taken place opposed the discharge of treated water. So they clearly opposed what that discharge of the treated discharge should not be done of the treated water, and 30% or neither opposed nor in favor. So several protests have been held in Seoul against the release. So many voted seafood ahead of the discharge. Some survey shows that 80 to 85% of South Koreans oppose the water release. The Chinese government, which has been against Japan's decision since the announcement was made, has already banned seafood from Japan. So, owing to the fear, why? Because they are fearful that the water that is being released is going to affect the sea food also. So many countries have also banned what the seafood that is coming from the Japan. Now, countries have to balance what is the scientific proof or what can be established and the general perception of the public. So they are saying what that now you have to also make the general public of the people or general public of the country understand this fact. Why? Because these fears always come up after such a large disaster. This is exactly what I have been saying that people are fearful. And if you see, there are this new set of protesters, and what are they saying? That South Korean protesters demand a stop to Japan's release of treated radioactive water into the sea. Is the water safe? Okay, so the professor, the Simon Chen in the Disarmament Global Human Security School of Public Policy and Global Affairs at Columbia, says that although scientifically the levels of radiation in the wastewater are not so high, so they are saying that the radiations from the wastewater is not so high as to cause panic. There is evidence showing that exposure to radiation, even at low levels, can harm the health of human life and the environment. So they are saying that even though the water is treated, and the exposure to the radiations is also at a very low level. So what they are saying is that though the radiations are also at very low level, but they can harm the health of humans. So the possibility and the chances are there that the health of human could be affected. Now, tritium is easily absorbed by the bodies of living creature when it is in the form of created water and rapidly distributed throughout bodies via blood. So, I can say what expansion or accumulation of triated or tritiated water is rapid. Fine. So since the tritiated water can pass through the placenta, it would lead to developmental effects in babies when ingested by the pregnant women. So again, the very important thing, or you can say, this could be this could have a very severe implication. Why? Because through placenta, they can also pass through the babies. Now, chemically, he said that there is no difference between the tritiated water and the water with tritiate. He also pointed out that this IAEA, that is your International Atomic Energy Agency, most important objective is to see to accelerate and enlarge the contribution of atomic energy. He said that one should not be surprised that they underplay the risks involved. Now, Japan is trying to use the IAEA decisions as a tool to release the water. Now, what else? Mr. Vishwanath further explains that there is no other option besides releasing the water, partially because of space around the plant, but also because of potential leakage. That means they are saying that there is no other option. Why? Because there are high chances of leakage also. So there are high chances of leakage. That means overflow is happening. So there is no option, but we have to, or they have to release the water in the sea. They don't want to take this all over the country and store it. It increases the risk and the risk of they increases the risk exponentially. Now, besides, governments knew that the handling of this wastewater would have to deal with since the earthquake hit. Now, how is this affecting regional politics? Uh, Japanese Prime Minister and South Korean President publicly ate seafood after the discharge began in order to strengthen the public trust in the water treatment process. So, if you see the regional politics in most of the countries, even in India, you will witness this. What is happening is that whenever such kind of acts are happening, so what is happening? The one who are the leaders. So if they are leading from the front, then the trust of the public would increase. So this is what they have done. That they themselves have had this seafood after the discharge has taken place, so that the public trust would increase. Now, key factor for Japan in maintaining relations with South Korea in particular has been transparency over the treatment and relief. South Korea's government, following repeated consolation by the IAEA, has told people that the water and the seafood is safe. They have also assured the public that they will continuously monitor the seawater and seafood. Now, the water may pose more geopolitical problem than health issue. Japan colonized the Korean Peninsula in the earlier 20th century, and the tensions of that time continue to strain relations even now. So, both the leaders have been working together for what? Maintaining the friendly relation, especially given the potential threats that their more aggressive behaviors. Now, China and South Korea present that although yeah, South Korean government has opposed the water's release, IAEA's approval was able to provide adequate reassurance. That means South Korea government has denied, or you can say has opposed it, what the release of the water, but IAEA has given approval to provide adequate reassurance. Now, maintaining transparency on the risk and the measures being taken has helped Japan's domestic and geopolitical standing. Now, Japanese authorities have met with their regional counterparts like South Korea and China and even Russia to discuss the treatment and release plan. Although China and Russia were not on board at the time of release, he said most other countries were comforted by such transparent communication. Now, what is happening is, what is the significance of China's hardline response, or what is China's response to this? So, China's response must be seen through a wider geopolitical lens. Why? Because Japan or Sino relations have fluctuated repeatedly in the recent past, especially as China grows its military presence in the South China Sea. This has evoked more nationalist sentiments from both sides, making this wastewater issue notable but not necessarily new. China is now watching South Korea and Japan's strengthening relationship. So China is having what a eye on to the Japan. This is what we have been talking in the past also, that Japan and South Korea relations kind of are improving. So China is also having also watching South Korea and Japan and China, of course, is not comfortable about the growing bonhomia between South Korea and Japan. The Chinese government aims to make it an issue just to create further strategic fissures between South Korea and Japan. Though it appears at present to be a big issue, I don't think that the Chinese government will succeed in politicizing. I'm sorry, politicizing the issues to create a further divide between South Korea and Japan. Now, Japan will release the treated wastewater over the next 30 years and will continue to monitor the seawater radiation. The government is also setting aside 80 billion yen to compensate officials who will lose business because of public fear. The government is looking to revive the country's nuclear power plant industry with the hopes to stabilize the energy sector. So now, if you see all through the article, I have told you that the wastewater that has been coming is coming from where the earthquake that happened in past 2011, right? So in the conclusion part, also they are saying that before the 2011 earthquake, 30% of the Japan's electricity need were met via nuclear reactors. In March, less than 10% of Japan's power came from these facilities. It appears to want to create the impression that the Fukushima accident is long over, whereas the reality is that it will be decades and decades before. So the radioactive material at least segregated. So this article is very important with respect to your IR section also, and with respect to the disaster management section also. So if you do the if you have gone through this year's paper, I have also done the GS paper 3 analysis at Yojna IAS website, Yojna IAS channel. So you can see that the disaster management questions are there this year also. Now, let's move on to taking India back to the drawing board. Now, this article says it's I'm left with 5 minutes, but I'll try covering the entire article with you. So, the author in this article, what has she said, that its political motivation aside, the constitution's uh, 128th Amendment Bill, that is 128th Bill, now which promises 33% of reservation for women in Lok Sabha and in the legislative assemblies of the states and the National Capital Territory of Delhi, sheds the spotlight on another crucial aspect of representative democracy. Um, we have discussed about the reservation of a woman. Right? Now they have shed light on what the representative democracy feature. And what is that? That is the delimitation of electoral constituencies. So the exercise of carving electoral constituencies and fixing their boundary is referred to as delimitation. So given their almost festive nature in India, elections are traditionally considered to be the primary site where democracy translates into action. Now, equally significant is the carving out of the boundaries. Now, the whole article is talking about you have given the reservation to 33% of the women. Good enough, good for you, good for the people. But how this carving of the boundary is going to happen? Why? Because the author is saying that we need a robust conversation around delimitation sooner than later, so that lifting of the freeze on the allocation of seat does not have to be pushed ahead further. What does this mean? This means that you should have a focus on delimitation. That means, what is delimitation as of now? Like, how do we define it? So, Article 81 of the Constitution says that each seat gets seat in the Lok Sabha in proportion to its population. The freeze on the delimitation effected in 1976 was to allay the concerns of the state which took a lead in population control and which were faced with the prospect of reduction of the number of seats in the Lok Sabha. They mean to say that in the certain areas, what is happening is that the population is increasing. Fine. So if you see, the population is increasing, but the representation of or the representatives that are coming from that section has shown no difference. So the prospect is what? The population has increased, but with respect to the population, what is happening? There is reduction in the number of seats. So the practical consequences, however, the 1976 freeze is that the allocation done on the basis of the 1971 census continues to hold good for the present population figure. That means the 1971 census held good for the population. Well, India's population has of course increased significantly since then. Using figure from 1971 to represent today's population runs contrary to the Greeks. Now, the exercise of delimitation also implicates the constitutional value of federalism, representation of states. In the preceding decades, the population of the north has increased at faster pace as compared with the south. Now, in practical terms, this means that MPs in the states in North India represent more voters than compared to MPs in the south. You also know that this is exactly what is happening, that the MPs in the North India's are more. Now, given this context, the question of the delimitation necessarily has serious implications for both the individual voters as well as the states. The southern states run the risk of losing some of their seats in the parliament once the delimitation exercise is completed based on the current population figure. So there is a fear that is mounting onto the South Indian. That means that they will lose the number of seats or their representation from the South India once the delimitation is done. And the delimitation in the near future, the new parliament building appears ready to house over 800 MPs in the Lok Sabha. However, these MPs will spread out across the India's electoral constituencies, and how many people each MP will represent are questions that begs the urgent answer. Now, the first question might seem more logistical, like what should the population figure come from to inform the exercise of delimitation? The 2021 census has put courtesy of COVID-19 pandemic, and the Union House Minister has indicated the next census and subsequent delimitation will be conducted. Now, interestingly, the next census were to be actually conducted in 2031. The population figures from 1970 would have informed the distribution of seats in Lok Sabha for more than half a century. Now, what is important for you? The recently concluded the delimitation in Assam ahead of the 2024 assembly election witnessed widespread concern around how altering the boundaries of certain districts and renaming certain constituencies can have potentially acute impact on representation of specific communities. That is all the indication need to start a robust conversation around delimitation sooner than later so that lifting of the freeze on allocation of Lok Sabha seat does not have to be pushed ahead. That will be a stop-gap solution to an imminent concern, one that cannot be wished away. So the entire article is talking about what? Delimitation of boundaries. Fine. So this was important, and you can have go through this economic corridor also just read it. And again, yesterday, not yesterday, on Saturday, we covered Friday and Saturday. We have covered this China's denial entry to Arunachal Pradesh athletes. So this is a follow back news of that also. Okay. So thank you so much.